Guys, it's Alyssa. It's that time of the week again where I recap The Bachelor. Say hello to Webster. He, because of all the weather that's coming, we actually got a lot of bad weather last night. But I think it's going to go away pretty soon. All the weather up in New York and Boston that's headed their way is causing our airport to be really super busy. We live actually, well, maybe a long walk, but we live very close to an airport. And so right now, you probably hear that in the background of my videos. It's constant. People, I guess, trying to fly in or fly, back home before all that bad weather comes. So if you hear occasional weird noises, that's what it is. I wanted to tell you a little bit about what happened in the last Bachelor. It was actually 2 nights of episodes, but I'm only going to do the one from Monday, so it's not a super long video, and hopefully before the one that posts for this Monday, I'll do the one that they did for Tuesday. I'm not exactly sure why they did that. Both episodes were completely crazy. Whoops. I made myself some notes because there was so much to remember. But the first thing was, so Chris Harrison comes and tells them that they're starting on their worldwide adventure, and then they end up flying to Montana. I was like, And so the first date, Lindsay had, and of course they got in a helicopter. You can't go on a date, apparently. I would never last on The Bachelor because I hate flying. I don't think I would like helicopters very much because that's like rickety flying. And then it seems like this season is almost more like Survivor than it is The Bachelor. They constantly have different like physical challenges that they have to do. And I would assume if you're like, I can't do this or I don't want to do this, that he's gonna, say peace out. But anyway, Lindsay had to travel on a helicopter and they went on a picnic like up kind of on the top of a mountain, which sounds nice in theory, but winter in Montana looks very cold. And she the whole time they're both like, and even he looks pretty, not miserable being with her, but miserable because of the weather conditions. And then for whatever reason, Sean in this episode is wearing an infinity scarf. I saw a blogger call it a manfinity scarf, and I thought that was genius. So I can't take credit for manfinity scarf, but Sean was definitely wearing one. Then after they had their picnic, they ended up going to this cabin, which was actually really nice, and sitting by the fire and making out and talking about their dreams and everything. And then he took her outside and gave her the rose, and she got to watch a private Sarah Darling, I don't know who that is, but she sounded pretty good, concert. Only it wasn't totally private because the entire town was around watching them make out and dance and taking photographs. Obviously, fans of The Bachelor's airplane. Anyway, next, Selma Ashley with a Y, Ashley with a L-E-E, Desiree, Catherine, Sarah, Leslie, Robin, and Daniela. It's a lot of, I don't know how he remembers all their names. Go on a group date. For this group date, they took them out into the middle of the woods, and it was like a, almost like Iron Man lumberjacky kind of competition, and they had to race in canoes. There were 3 of them, I think, in a canoe each, except for Leslie, who somehow ended up in Sean's canoe. Smart girl for jumping in there quick. And of course all the girls were like, Leslie got in the canoe with Sean. But I think that's smart. They had to race the canoe, move bales of hay, they had to cut across logs with saws, and then they had to milk a goat, and then one of them had to chug like a big mason jar. I don't know exactly what the quantity was, but had to chug a mason jar full of freshly squeezed. You don't squeeze a goat to get goat milk, freshly milked goat's milk. Hopefully that makes sense. The red team, they actually had really cute little outfits. They had these like red or blue gingham shirts, depending on which team they were. And the red team won. So they begin their date with Sean, and then he feels guilty for sending the blue team back. So he ends up bringing them. So the girls that worked really hard and did all that cutting and lifting hay bales, which was hard. I mean, it really was hard work. I think it would be hard work. It was like farmers' work. Very like manual labor kind of stuff, and so they were really mad that they did all that work basically for nothing, because if they'd known they didn't have to try hard, I don't think they would have been chugging goat's milk like they were, because the blue team ended up coming back and the girls are not happy about it. Tiara, who was not even invited on the group date, somehow manages to get a team blue shirt and comes and crashes their date, which of course the girls are not happy about. And even Sean acted like kind of confused or annoyed that she was there. Desiree was mad because she chugged all the goat milk for nothing, and she kind of complained to Sean, but she did it in more of like a cute way. I like Desiree. I think it seems like on Twitter people are kind of half and half, but a lot of Twitter feedback thought that she needed to just quit her whining and deal with it. Daniela cried because she went out to talk to Sean, and Catherine, who I also liked, was sitting in his lap talking, and Daniela like throws this big fit and cries and weeps, and then of course Sean gives her a rose, because apparently that's how it works on The Bachelor, is the more of a baby you act like, the more you get a rose. Or if you have a dead relative story, which I do have a dead relative story, so I wonder how well I would do on The Bachelor. And anyway, the last date in Montana is a 2-on-1 with Tiara and Jackie. The girls joined Sean at a horseback riding ranch place, and it kind of sucks for Jackie because the way that the trail is narrow, and so the whole time just Sean and just Tiara are like side by side and talking, and she's kind of the third wheel in the back. I mean, she can't really, there's not the physical space for her to like pull up her horse, so she's just kind of back there like Lone Rangering it up, not really talking to anybody. They go back to their like spot for dinner, which I heard a rumor, I don't know if this is true or not, that they're actually not allowed to eat on camera. And so that explains why you never actually see them eating a bite of anything when they're at dinner, which seems like a waste of money, but whatevs. And Jackie ends up alone with Sean, and she tells him that Tiara's intentions are not very well, which everyone knows. If you are tattletelling on The Bachelor, you're going home. I mean, it's like suicide case. If you went home for it just recently, pretty much anyone that talks smack about Courtney on Ben's season got sent home, so not smart. And she tells Sean that all of the women witnessed Tiara when they were at the airport flying into Montana. She was flirting with a guy at the airport, like pretty heavily. And you can tell that he's kind of like, it sucks. But at the same time, he pulls Tiara aside and, you know, is talking to her about like why she has these social issues with the girls in the house and stuff. And so she tells him, I mean, it was like an Oscar-worthy performance in my opinion, about her old boyfriend who died, and blamed that for her inability to get close to people and to have drama to people. You know, everyone did a huge collective eye roll, I think, while she was talking. Then they return, and Sean, of course, gives Tiara, not Jackie, because she tattletaled the rose, and sends her home. And then they have their cocktail party. Robin confronts Tiara and Ashley, and Ashley with a Y, and Leslie kind of just help her. They're just kind of like, yeah, suck it. You know, whenever, Robin let her have it for being rude, and they said that Tiara, whenever she is off camera, never talks to anyone in the house and is very antisocial and rude to the girls. So Sean walks in right as Tiara is like ripping Robin a new one, and he pulls her aside and questions her, and she claims that she's being bullied by the other girls in the house. So then Sean asks Leslie, and Leslie, who is smart, in my opinion, as far as like the way that the game is played, she doesn't give any more details than she has to. And she's like, all she'll say is that Tiara is very cold to the other girls, and then she immediately changes the subject because she knows that she will get sent home if she says anything bad about Tiara or tattletales. And then last but not least, at the end of the rose ceremony, Robin ends up being the one sent home instead of Tiara. And they don't really give a reason for that. I think Sean's just not, you know, for whatever reason, feeling it with her. But anyway, that was the first episode, and I will try to get in the second one, which is a lot more exciting, because Tiara has to go to the hospital and gets hurt again. I hope that ABC paid for good insurance for her, because she seems to be having to go with the medical people and the ambulance people quite a bit this season. But hopefully I'll get time to do that before the actual next episode on Monday, and I will talk to you guys later. Bye.